Well, you find there in John chapter 1 and verse 14, it says, and the word became flesh, and he tabernacled among men. So they had no excuse now. So they didn't have a physical sanctuary now. Now they have a literal body sanctuary, so that just as how when they looked upon the ancient sanctuary, that physical structure, and they saw the glory of God, the word says, and the word became flesh and dwelt among them, and they beheld his glory. Now you know that when he drove them out of the sanctuary, we are told that he was glorified. Divinity flashed through humanity. They did behold his glory. And they had no excuse. They had a person now who was the antitype of what the sanctuary in type symbolized. They had the real thing, so that when they looked upon this person, they would have seen what would have been God's purpose for the human race. When they looked upon Christ, they saw God dwelling in him. They saw his glory flash through humanity, and they saw it. They had no excuse. But still, the children of Israel did not appreciate what God did. Christ walked among them for 3.5 years in his public ministry. He was born in a manger for 30 years. And for the last 3.5 years, when he began his ministry in AD 27, he walked among them in the flesh as this living temple. And they still did not appreciate it. They still did not learn God's eternal purpose for them in the sanctuary, although he sent one in the flesh. So what God said, he's going to destroy the physical temple. And he did destroy the physical temple. And Christ even told them in John chapter 2, he made a statement there just to show you how the children of Israel did not understand God's eternal purpose for them. When Christ said in John chapter 2, and you can read it there, in John chapter 2 and verse 19, it says there, let us read it. John chapter 2 and verse 19 through 21. Jesus answered and said unto them, destroy this temple. In fact, I should read from verse 18, the question which they asked. Then answered the Jews and said unto him, what sign shewest thou unto us, seeing that thou doest these things? What sign? What is the sign will you show to us that you are indeed the Messiah? And he said, Jesus answered and said unto them, verse 19, destroy this temple now. He was standing in Solomon's porch, remember. He was standing right in front of the physical temple. And he said, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. And what do you think? The children of Israel demonstrated their ignorance, demonstrated their lack of understanding, which they had demonstrated way back in the time of Jeremiah when they said, the temple of the Lord are these. So when Jesus said, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up, they thought he was talking about the very temple that they were worshiping and took so much pride in. And verse 20 says, then said the Jews, 46 years was this temple in building, and wilt thou rear it up in 3 days? But he spake of the temple of his body. He was speaking about the sanctuary of his body. But they were thinking that he was talking about Solomon's temple. They were thinking that he was trying to destroy their organization. See? Now this has always been the problem with the church throughout the ages. Whenever someone comes with a spiritual message that tries to show them the essence of what the gospel is, that tries to show them that what the essence of what the sanctuary truth is, they think that you are trying to destroy their organization. So they said, here he goes now. He's going to destroy our nation. And this is what you find in the book of John, where it said it is in the time of Caiaphas there. It was necessary that one man should die, or else, if he doesn't, he's going to destroy the nation, our nation. The Romans will come and they will take our place and they will take our nation, and they will destroy our temple. So we have to get rid of this guy. And they did. They crucified him. And this has always been the response to church leaders. This has always been the response to religious bigots whenever there is a message of present truth. To destroy the ones who are bearing the truth, because they think that that one is trying to tear down their organization. They have come to the point where they worship and they have more belief in the organizational setup than in what the organization stands for. And that was the history of the Jews. So when we are talking about the cleansing of the sanctuary, then we are talking about the cleansing of the defilement of the human body. We are not talking about the cleansing of the physical structure. We are talking about the cleansing of the defilement of the physical body of the individual, of which the physical structure of the sanctuary was only a type. So when the Jews, for example, were selling the sheep and the goats and the lambs and the turtle doves and all the different animals in the sanctuary, what Christ was really telling them was, look, the same way how you are outwardly polluting the sanctuary, it is just so you are inwardly polluting your body sanctuary, in which I want to dwell. And the lesson that he taught them was that I'm going to cleanse it. And that was pointing down to the time, in our time, when Christ would come and he would cleanse the sanctuary. Not the physical sanctuary. He will not go in a church and simply throw out all the pews and throw out all the carpet and throw out all the different things that we find in churches and say, well, I don't like that, and so on. He will come to physically cleanse the body temples of his people. And this is what we want to study today, the cleansing of a sanctuary. Now, the SDA doctrine in Daniel chapter 8 and verse 14, this is the bedrock. This is the foundation of the SDA movement. And it says there in Daniel chapter 8 and verse 14. Let us read that. In Daniel chapter 8 and verse 14, this is the doctrine upon which the Christian religion, I should say, is based. This is upon the doctrine upon which the SDA denomination was raised up by God in 1844. And this was Daniel here, who was told this by the angel Gabriel himself. And it says there in Daniel chapter 8 and verse 14, and he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. Now, this was not talking about the physical sanctuary to be cleansed, because at the time when Daniel was given this vision and this explanation, the physical temple was in ruins. Babylon had destroyed it. Nebuchadnezzar had burnt it to the ground. So there was no sanctuary to be cleansed at that time. So Daniel was in a quandary. What was he talking about? Now, we know that this 2,300 days prophecy relates to the time when the investigative judgment would have begun in 1844. So from 457 BC down to 1844 was the period that this 2,300 days covered. However, the Jews were allotted 490 years of this 2,300 days or years. The Jews were allotted 490 years of that. And I want you to take special note as to what the Jews were supposed to accomplish during those 490 years that were allotted to them. Israel was given a specific time period in which they were supposed to cleanse the sanctuary. They were given a specific period within that 2,300 years in which they were supposed to make right, in which they were supposed to come to an understanding of what the physical temple meant to them. So we find that in Daniel chapter 9. In Daniel chapter 9, Gabriel came back to give Daniel the explanation. And Daniel was praying. You remember he was in verse 20 of Daniel chapter 9, it said, and whilst I was speaking and praying and confessing my sin and the sins of my people Israel, and presenting my supplication before the Lord my God for the holy mountain of my God, whilst I was speaking and praying in prayer, even the man, Gabriel, whom I had seen in the vision at the beginning being caused to fly swiftly, touched me about the time of the evening oblation. And he informed me and talked with me and said, "O Daniel, I am now come forth to give thee skill and understanding. At the beginning of thy supplications, the commandment came forth, and I came, and I am come to shew thee, for thou art greatly beloved. Beloved. Therefore understand the matter and consider the vision. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city, to finish transgression, to make an end of sins, to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy." So now notice carefully what they were supposed to do. They were supposed to make an end of sins. They were supposed to stop polluting the sanctuary. They were supposed to stop polluting their body temples. They were supposed to finish transgression. They were supposed to make reconciliation for iniquity and to bring in everlasting righteousness and to seal up the vision. Now, when you do that, if they had done that, they would have been sealed. This is what the Bible tells you here. The vision would have been sealed up. Yes, they were supposed to bring in everlasting righteousness and seal up the vision and prophecy. Now, that which pertained to ancient Israel in terms of the time period that was allotted to them to make an end of sins, to finish transgression, and to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to seal up the vision and prophecy, that which was given to them in the type in their day is that which will be given to us in our day also. So it will be said of us at the time when the sanctuary is supposed to be cleansed, we too must come to the realization that we too must make an end of sins, finish transgression, make reconciliation for iniquity, and bring in everlasting righteousness. Now, everlasting righteousness is not righteousness that comes in today and ends tomorrow. Everlasting righteousness is righteousness that comes in to stay forever. In other words, we must stop sinning. We must reach the point where we become like Jesus himself, where we are no longer sinning, where we no longer commit one wrong act. And when we do that, it tells us he will seal up the vision. The vision of the 2300 days will be sealed up. In other words, we'll have a people who will receive the seal of the living God in their foreheads.
Follow our studies at Solemn Thought Ministries on YouTube to learn more.